Yeah, I'll give it 40 grand.
Right.
They can use it to pay their.
Yeah.
Most people, most times.
Well, this one's not on the historical records. We need to go that down because I didn't want to have to restore it back to.
Mine is, in fact, mine is on the cover. It's on the cover. It's really for sure it's bad.
That's cool.
It's just a big name. Because very
It's a beautiful film.
It is. I wish I had more money. But it's got a big roof. I got a spot up there that needs to take care of.
That's a deal breaker.
I got a roof at the front of my house.
That's good.
I do got it. I mean, a 2-year process of trying to buy a bus. So I can do that. Trying to them hard. I know been around here. Steve, they're all. Maryland.
Yeah. They might be. Let me find out. Rainbow. Rainbow. I was thinking they might have an older one. Let me check for it. Let me check for you and see if we, I know we have an older one, but I don't know if they're ready to get rid of it, but I'll check.
Yeah, there's the closest good when I found it is just a gate to go. And it's very cheap. 200 miles.
Yeah, you need something close. It's just gonna sit here. You're not driving.
Somewhere else to get us tonight.
Anyway,
Yeah,
let
I'll
me,
check.
please let me.
Yeah, I will.
I would definitely be able to.
Yeah, I'll revisit that bill. We'll talk to the application guy. See if he can make this.
There's somebody that's actually ready. If the rest of the deal on that bill is good.
That guy told me, and he told me the name of the company. I don't remember who it was, but I called them and I go, we don't make anything that big. Like for that big of a bill, they only go to 22. But like you said, but. Okay. The rest of the stuff's more valuable.
If I had that big a bill.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be separate.
So I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you'd like to join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to public comments, Sarah, you're up first for the Hiawatha Chamber of Visitors Bureau.
First of all, I have a check to present to the city for a donation for fireworks. So if you give that to all of you guys. And then I'm here to ask about road closures for the Big Boy Festival. And we're just asking the exact same thing we had last year, which is to have all the streets around the square closed and then Oregon down to the alley right here. And we don't close in front of the post office. And I gave this and map and I have others in one needs to see. It's September 28th.
That's what we've done every year.
Last year we added this part here for the car show. We didn't need it, but we'd like to have it in case we need it. But it's the same thing as for last year.
Brad, any concerns or
No concerns for us.
you need a motion for that?
Yes, please.
You like a big motion?
I'll make a motion to have the road closures for the Maple Leaf Festival on September 28th, 2024, the same as last year's venue.
Second. Been moved and seconded to close the streets for the Maple Leaf Festival. Any further discussion? Not?
John, Jane, whoever.
Right, all in favor?
Aye. Motion passed 5-0, and thank you very much for the fireworks, we kind of lost past that, but thank you for helping us
Thank you.
the pay for the fireworks. Next up, we have, all right, Larry Rader. For John Deere.
Yes, I'm Larry Rader, Hiawatha Implement. And we have some sitting on a new building. The site, we have some complications by a city sewer line. And I have some pictures here, probably do more good than 1,000 words.
Thanks, Larry.
Recent satellite viewing of our property. You can see our current store, and on the left hand is the new building we're looking at. And the construction will probably start a little later in the year. It's a 120 by 240 by 26 foot shop, and trying to take care of our needs and things. On the second page, kind of a map of where our building will be and where the sewer presently runs. There are 4 connections to the sewer. It's a farm and home, the Sodens, and the little building out in front of Sodens. In our former STR building hooks into this sewer line. I talked to Dave Wilson about the options and things like this for the sewer. And I've come up with 3 options that I think we should consider. And number one is for the city to move the sewer around building. And I have talked to Chadwick Construction about this, and on the 3rd page, it shows 2 options that he's looking at. And there's approximately 300-foot sewer line and between 2 manholes that the building will be over this area. And the first option he was looking at is in the yellow. It's a little difficult to see, and that would involve 482 feet of new sewer line, just 1 manhole. Problem that Tori said is the manhole, it's a little sharp bend in there. So option 2 would be to put a new manhole on the south end and run to another 2nd manhole and connect to the existing manhole. That would be 408 feet, a little shorter, but it would require installing 2 manholes. Second option I think we should consider is to go ahead and build the building on top of the sewer. The main sewer line is 8 foot deep. I see no problem with doing that. Any problem there? It would save a lot of money by not having to move it. If there's ever any problem come up, we can always move the sewer. 3rd option I was looking at would be for the city to abandon this 300-foot sewer, and we would take responsibility of the sewer and take care of the 4 customers. So I hope those are solutions that you would consider. Hiawatha Implement is probably one of the bigger employers in Hiawatha. We have 50 plus employees, and I get irritated every time I pay property tax. You should be happy.
Go ahead with the county on that one.
Any questions?
Brad,
You presented some really good options for us. Dominic, do you have anything to add?
I mean, thank you for all the options you gave us. Because I didn't think of all those options.
You've done a lot of work for us, and that really does help us tremendously.
There may be other options. Those were just the ones that.
I was just unsure. I'd gotten with Dave before and he wasn't sure. I wasn't quite sure. And the day we drove out there, exactly Mr. Rear where you were putting that building.
There are red flags out there. It's just right north of Silver's.
You want to come up here to the podium? Dominic?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're right. You can stay there. You can stay there.
you can say
$20.
No, but we have looked at this because there's still all the other ones that go into that other manhole and then they flow to a patch across your property.
Do we have any idea of what the cost estimate would be of the first two options, or the first option, I should say?
I do.
I noticed that,
And I. Big numbers.
You know, the line is. That line is fairly new. I'd say it was put in the last 30 years. I believe that's what it was. It's EPC or less than a inch. It's a fairly new line.
That's kind of like lost.
Nothing changed. This is for which option?
That's all the first one I saw, and I saw that. This is a little inside. It was about 4 times what I thought, but I'm not in the sewer business, so
Says, have you talked to Sodens? Do they have any problem with
no.
you take over?
Right.
I mean, that's the only person that's on it, right?
Chad's on it, Farm and Homes on it, and there's a little business out front, and we have a building on it. But Chad said it was okay. I just wondered before I got too involved in it, I thought I would find out whether the city would even consider it. So
And the hazards of, if we put that bill over the existing line and I remove it. Something happens to it and work.
well, to me, it's real similar as to what we were facing on Iowa. Yeah.
Because the bids for 86,000. So. That's a lot of money to consider to spend, but if it's PVC, it'll probably last a long time.
the only possible catastrophe would be an earthquake. The earthquakes that bad, a building probably won't be left either.
And then
Well, and it's not a main, like this one was on fire. It's not.
It's not a main collector, there are quite a few businesses here. And really what I was concerned with, just personally, where the taps were going to be for like farm and home. And it does not look like the building will be over that tap. The only tap that it's going to be over will be a building that you own. They used to be able to squeeze tractors
Right.
in there.
It wouldn't be.
Yeah, and so that was my main concern, to know where those taps were going to be, but it looks like we have those identified, so. As far as building over anything can happen there, it's doubtful, it's one of those things, like I doubt anything would happen there with a PVC line like that.
we could I won't say we,
Yeah.
it could be bored if something gets catastrophe.
And there's options there available to, so we wouldn't have to dig that up. I mean, there's other options available.
Yes.
Are you talking about getting rid of that manhole? I painted it this morning, the one that your headers were over.
Okay, no, that one will stay.
Will stay, okay.
That- Yes.
Which one's that?
Okay, the north one, the one. This one right here will stay. It'd be this one right here. Yes.
Or you need an answer right away or what?
No, I mean, I certainly wouldn't expect that.
I think option three is something that we would have to look into as far as banning your easement goes there. I think that's a pretty straightforward process. I mean, I would encourage you to maybe get with the other property owners and kind of get a feeling of what they would want there. And kind of come to some kind of agreement with them that just in case we did that. Option three is, that's an interesting option, but option two is also interesting. I mean, option one's very expensive, so.
I had to bring that up as if it was considered, and with the numbers, I didn't expect it, much positive feedback.
Yeah. Option three seems to be the easiest for everyone. It's gonna be probably the
Now the city wouldn't have the liability for doing this.
seems easy. I would get with the adjacent property owners and just have an agreement, and you can come back and present that to us, and then we can, in the meantime, we can look into that process. Like I said, I think it's a pretty straightforward process there. So. Anybody else have any thoughts?
When we started wanting to start to build,
Hopefully try to start building in about 2 weeks. The building is just now getting approval to get ordered. So I would say probably 3 or 4 months. Completion in 9 months.
So we don't have any foundation work that goes big, but
No.
Because if it goes any further west, then you'd probably be looking at fall of that manhole on Apache. Because that's a problem we're gonna run into building, if we would build over there, it'd have to have a lift station.
I already checked on that. Corey said there's plenty of fall. With these.
Like these
With
options.
your emotions, yes.
Yeah.
I think
That was the first thing I looked at.
you're a bit uphill from where those manholes are. So
Yes.
Like I said, we're not going west anyway with it. So. No,
I don't think
I'm going.
done.
Yes. I wave at you. Come to see sewer plant.
so then we'll just do with that where you're gonna go to the property owner on this, and then Brad, you'll finish doing some.
Yeah, so I'll get with Andy and see what the process is on abandoning an easement, and I think our next meeting is on July 8th, is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
I'll have answers by then.
All right, that sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Thanks, Larry. Okay, moving on to Angie, you're the one listed, so I don't know. Before I start off.
It's both of us again. So Angie Craig with Rainbow Communications and Julie Bergman. We just wanted to come back and give you a good news update that the construction is completed, electronics are installed and progressing along really well. And so we have begun contacting residents of Hiawatha. If you're a Rainbow customer, you should have received a pretty nice packet in the mail that kind of just explains fiber and when you need to come in and get on the schedule to get moved over. And so Friday, we wanted to formally invite the commission and all the employees here at the city. And for that matter, the residents of Hiawatha, we're having a hot dog lunch and a ribbon cutting for just our residential fiber. Kind of just a reintroduction of services, obviously, in Hiawatha for fiber. And so that'll be on Friday, the 28th. And we have quite a few customers to get cut over, and we've gotten a good response so far, but it will probably be a project that will last close to pretty much through the end of the year to get all the residential cut over. And then at that point, the first of the year, we'll be cutting over all of our businesses to the new 10 gig fiber plant. So things are progressing very nicely. We just got notification. We were pretty excited. The Kansas Office of Broadband is coming up for the ribbon cutting too. So we'd just wanted to invite all of you in person. Thank you. Thank you for your cooperation and being able to get the project done, and just see if you had any other questions.
No, I just called last week to get scheduled and they're already out to August, so people must be.
They are responding very well, so we're excited about that.
I called the day after I got my packet. And it's July 19th, and that was the day after I got the packet.
Yeah,
I think it was you guys.
we're having really good response,
Very nice.
so, and that's a good thing, it's a good thing.
I was surprised this was in June.
Well,
July 19th.
We'll have to
Really
text.
falling in.
Yeah, they are, thank goodness, it's good, everybody's got the word and wants faster, more reliable fiber, so. We'll have 3 techs in town, so we'll be doing 9 to 12 installs a day, so. It's gonna keep us pretty busy going forward, so, but again, we want to just thank the city for your cooperation and please try to make it.
You have a good crew too.
Yeah, thank
Don't
you,
get it done wrong.
thank you. Any other questions or anything, commissioners? Thank you for that update.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation also.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Brad, do you have anything to add with that?
I do.
Any questions, or if not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Not, James.
All in favor? All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. You switched on.
Jane's voice changed.
Okay, moving on to old business. Brad?
Yeah, so on the first 3 quarters discussion, I had presented to the commission some new information that we had received over the past week. We had asked BG Consultants quite some time ago to try to give us an idea of what a price for them would cost for them to come in and do engineering services for us. And so what they came back with was that the cost of the engineering services would be around $52,000 with a $10,000 contingency. And they're basing that off of what they estimate as the total cost of the project by their estimation. So how that works from them is they kind of do that on a curve. It's a percentage of the project, and I believe that with them, it's just above an 8% cost as far as the project cost goes. And right now, they have total cost of the project at $700,000 to $750,000. That was in the letter that they had attached to their proposal. And in the meantime, KDOT responded with a letter as of Friday. And in their letter, what they're saying is by June 28th, they would like the traffic signals to be turned back to flash. And that by October, we need to have a plan in place to replace the signals, or they will come and remove them. And so those are kind of the discussions that we need to have today to see how we're going to move forward, kind of what the commission wants to do, things like that. And so, like I said, I wanted to bring this, anytime we get new information, I want to bring this up and make sure that we're still moving forward. So I'm open to any discussion or questions that I know.
Is it letter in the packet? I just read it online.
You said, Brad, if I remember that you had talked to the Lansing city administrator, who said that they had kind of the same cost for a project that was very similar, correct?
Yeah, the Lansing, it was a Lansing Public Works Director, or actually their city engineer, I should say. He had, which is also their Public Works Director, he's also their city engineer. But they have a project in Lansing that, once again, I mean, this really comes down to what KDOT says is warranted and what isn't warranted. There's a project in Lansing that the citizens or the commission down there wants a signal at that isn't warranted. And KDOT is telling them very similar things to what they're telling us. They're saying you can have it, but you have to meet our specs. And he said that their estimated cost out there was $700,000 to $800,000. I don't know the geometry of the intersection, but I do know that that was their estimate.
Did they have the same consultants? Do you know where they got those numbers from?
I'm not sure where they got their numbers from.
I mean, it was quite interesting to see how it's broken down, because it is hard to believe that something would cost that much, but they were pretty specific on how it. There's just a lot more to it than just changing poles out, putting the lights up. I was surprised.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
It says in this letter that, will remove the remains of the existing non-compliant signalization system. They're gonna take down the pole? What are they talking about?
By my understanding, that is correct, yes. And everything done.
I just don't understand that the traffic signal system alone, 400,000, is over double of the bid that we have. I mean, an actual bid. So how do they come up with over double the price of our actual bid?
I think in the letter that they have, they've explained that this is what they've seen in similar projects around Northeast Kansas. That's the explanation that they gave. BG Consultants, that is. I can read it. It says, we have recently designed and bid several similar projects in Northeast Kansas. Recent bids for a new traffic signal system with equal detection of accessible pedestrian signals have been averaging about $400 per intersection. That is for traffic signals only and does not include street geometry modifications, sidewalk improvements, mobilization, traffic control, pavement markings, and signing, site restoration, etc. And so he goes on to break down kind of what some of those project costs are. It says, based on my knowledge of the project location and state and federal government requirements, they'll apply to the scope of work needed for the project. It is his opinion that a project like this would have a total project cost of about $750,000. Traffic signal system, $400,000. Sidewalk ADA improvements, $50,000. Permanent markings and signing, $15,000. Curb return, driveway apron modifications, $50,000. Mobilization, $55,000. 10% contingency, $55,000. And opinion of the total construction cost of $625,000. When you add the design fees, preliminary surveying services, preliminary design, final design, that comes up to $52,000. And so with the total bid, construction phase services hourly not to exceed $10,000, that's where they're estimating their cost.
When I read the letter, is it possible that KDOT will let us set a pole and do the directional control? Because it says at the end of the letter, KDOT is willing to meet and confer with the city as you work through the requirements for upgrading the signal system to be compliant with the current design standards. And then it says that they're going to work with us on opportunities of planning studies to identify and implement long-term solutions along the corridor that pertains to pedestrian and bicyclists. So to me, that seems like, to me, it says that, hey, if you guys set the pole and do directional control, that they could be happy with that.
I don't believe that to be the case with the letter that I read, the way that I read it anyway. I would need to consult with KDOT on that to see whether that would be the case or not. I don't want to put words in their mouth at the same time.
Well, the last sentence of it says this would include the Safe Routes to School program and active transportation planning toolkit. So the way I read that as from when they came up last time to meet. They talked about the safe routes, being able to get, you know, better sidewalks to school, finding a safe way to cross, looking at the flashing beacons perhaps instead of the stoplights. I mean, that's how I read that, because that's what they were talking about before. You know, that was when they were discussing road diet too, which I know we decided not to do, but. So once again, once a letter, that's how you get what you get from reading it, but. That was some of the projects they talked about when they came up with the idea that we weren't going to have the stoplights.
KDOT gave us a memo back in March 13th, that outlined what the requirements would be to install a new signal at that intersection. They include getting a permit, a complete set of design drawings stamped by a professional engineer, designed in accordance with the federal guidelines and the KDOT standards. If there's a pedestrian actuation incorporated, it needs to be ADA compliant. And just a comment of that crossing is where it is now. There's no sidewalk there by the car wash. And I don't know how far back the right of ways go, but that's going to cost some money to figure that out, in my opinion. New signalization should be KDOT standards. The controller needs to be, where it's on the street. Need to consider coordinating the signal to Iowa with the new controller on Oregon. The public right of ways that's needed is the city's problem.
Haven't we already asked, we put in for a permit before to replace the pole point fairly recently, and they.
Yes, that's correct.
But not with the other part though, the control. Do the cameras and everything now.
I had presented that to them, April, that would have been 20, or it was either April or May of 2023. I got a quote from Jay Warren for the signalization, cameras and all that. And I think at that time, I'd have to look that one up. I probably actually have it on this computer, but I believe that quote was 70 to 80,000, which was at that time rejected. And that was my first proposal that I had brought to them when we were trying to work through this problem. That was one of the first things that I did, was get with Jay Warren and kind of try to get that proposal together to replace that pole, run new wire, have a camera system. Basically, this would have had a whole new control system as well. So what's in that box would have been replaced too, because it would have needed to for the camera system. But that was it.
So our maintenance agreement. Is it just basically not worth the paper that's written on or not? Because it in section 2.4, it says maintenance for automated traffic control devices.
And that's correct. So that's our connecting links agreement that we have to date on. Right. And so that maintenance agreement, and so when we got into it, and really this is something that I learned when we applied for that permit, because we had tried to look for what the legal definition was, as far as, you know, what was maintenance at that intersection. And so when I applied for that permit, they gave us a reason why it was denied. And the reason that it was denied, I'd have to look at our workshop that I presented it, but basically they were saying that anything that's outside of what they call routine maintenance, which, and it just kind of depends on what your definition of routine maintenance is. But what they were saying was KDOT has authority over even maintenance of that intersection when it comes to the state law. And so that started to make a lot more sense to me, you know, because I never understood why KDOT was saying some of the things that they were saying until I saw them. And so that's kind of, it took a while to get that answer, but we did finally get that answer. And so outside of changing light bulbs and just general routine maintenance of that intersection, we just don't have a lot of authority there as far as, like, say, major components go.
But you are feeling relatively certain that we can make police first in Iowa up to code? Or compliance, I mean.
That is correct. I had a phone conversation with Leroy Kane from KDOT today. And so in this conversation, I brought up a few different subjects, but one of them was First Iowa. And what I had discussed with Leroy was if we were going to move forward, like say, because we have pedestrian buttons, which the reason why the timing at First and Iowa is so off right now, not only because the vehicle detection system hasn't been operative since I've been here, so early 2000s is when that went down, but the pedestrian buttons are stuck, and so those need to be replaced. And so we ordered new pedestrian buttons to replace those. And so I just wanted to verify with Leroy that if we do that, we're going to be able to do that. And he did say that we would, but we still need to file a permit through KDOT since we're going to be working on that right away. And that covers us liability wise in case somebody runs through the intersection and hits a worker, we have a KDOT permit on file, is the way it was explained.
I'm gonna say something, may I?
Absolutely.
I would never try and stop you, Tony. I know better.
Who maintains the highway as far as potholes and snow?
KDOT.
Okay. So you all may think I'm crazy. Remember when we had old Highway 36 and that was the only highway we had? KDOT got bid out. So what did they do? They built a new highway. So my suggestion is that KDOT pick up their marbles. They're tired of, they won't work with us. They say they will, but they haven't yet. Every time we try to talk to them, they do nothing but interrupt us and treat us like we're, as I've said before, country bumpkins. We know nothing. We live here in this town. We know what's going on with our schools, with the street lights. They do these surveys. That's like me going to and do a survey for them and tell them what's best for them. At any rate, I feel like they need to go 1 mile, however far it is, east of town. Put in another, what do they call it? I wrote it down here. Connecting link. Get rid of that. Get rid of that connecting link. Leave us alone. Pack your bag, go back to Topeka, wherever you're at. Let us do what we want to do as a community with the streetlights. We'll get her done, right? That's my solution. Build another connecting link 1 mile east of town. And we're done with KDOT. They take care of that connecting link. We don't have to mess with them on Old 36 anymore.
My standpoint on this all along has been I'm not willing to shut off the lights that's working properly now,
Exactly.
and I don't understand why they have such a problem. I'm not asking any money from KDOT. We're gonna fund it all on our own. We have a bid for $150,000 to basically replace the light. Why can't we just replace our light and spend our $150,000? It does not make any sense. I drove to softball games all over within an hour. And I'm not going to tail on any other towns. But once you start paying attention to other people's lights, they've got the same thing going on that we do. Their lights aren't over the center lane. They've got road diets. They didn't make them change their signal and go through all this stuff that they're making us do. It's not right. And I think if the whole commission gets on board with this and says, we're gonna do it our way. What are they gonna do about it? We have a bid for someone to come replace our signal. It's our money, we pay the money. Unless they come out here and stand on over the holes and don't let them do the work that we're paying them to do. Then you let the citizens make the decision from that if they actually block it. But this whole engineering thing, the engineering fees and stuff that tags along with this costs as much as it does to just fix the lights. Doesn't even make sense. It was approved before, we're grandfathered in, fix the intersection and let's move on. We have two companies that are more than willing to come fix these lights for us, and we have bids to do it at a fraction of the cost of what all this is. The citizens want it. I don't know what we're waiting on.
This is not our state helping us. It's hindering us.
The only comment that I would add to that is that the only thing that's been holding us back up to this point is that there's a legal process that we have to go through to do any of that work. And with the contents of the letter and knowing that it was vetted by KDOT's legal counsel, and that it went all the way up to at least the deputy secretary of KDOT, because they're named on the letter, that I do believe that if we did anything like that, that they would come take these signals down.
We have it in writing saying that they will not remove our signal.
But
So they've said it both ways.
That's just it.
I mean,
They talk about out of both sides of their mouth.
this is a bully letter in my opinion.
And we have proof of that from email. They say one thing and then a month, 3 months later, totally the opposite.
I'm just here to present the information.
I understand.
Yeah, but I'm just also saying that I do believe, with the tone of what KDOT is telling us at this moment, that they are telling us the truth.
I mean, that's why I see it, we have a letter in front of us that we just got, and we've been dealing with Leroy on this. It's pretty cut and dry. I don't think it has anything to do whether the commission is 3-2 or 5-0. I think we'd still be in this exact same space. I mean, KDOT has the rules they have to follow with their federal requirements, and they're just rolling it down. It doesn't make sense, absolutely not, but it's what it is. I mean, it's similar to when, way back when we were trying to build a concession stand at the high school, and it cost a tremendous amount of money. When people say, well, why? Because we could do it so much cheaper, we donate and blah, blah, blah. Well, you can't. There's certain things we have to follow, certain standards we have to follow. So in my opinion, what we have to decide tonight is A, are we going to comply with the letter? And then B, if we decide to comply with the letter, are we going to figure a way? I mean, KDOT has said we can have lights, but it's going to cost. So if we choose that, yes, we're going to do lights, how are we going to pay for it? Because we don't just have a ton of money sitting in our budget. I mean, we are, and I'm not ready to see that we're not going to keep our streets up, and we're not going to be continue to do the sewer projects and all the stuff that we have to keep our city going. So how are we going to fund lights if we choose to comply with this letter? That's how I see it. Right or wrong, that's just, you know. And when I get a letter from BG Consultants, you know, saying exactly what everything costs, I'm not inflating anything. This is what I'm getting from our engineers. So I don't know. I don't know that we have a lot of choice.
Well, I think that's where the commission is separated, because I see that we do have choice.
This is a estimate as well. It's not a bid, and we have legitimate bids that are saying that it's half these numbers. So either we get another engineer and get basic bare bone requirements for that signal, because everybody I talk to they're not people that aren't dealing with this every day. this is what they do for a living, and they're not telling me that this is true.
So, I mean, have you encouraged them to get a hold of Brad and give them numbers and?
We do, we have the bids. Well, you can't do any more than that, because you physically have a bid.
And your J1's coming in on tomorrow, right?
They will be here tomorrow, yes.
And that's one of our bids, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, and the other company that actually fixed our signal,
That's the company.
right, okay, and they were about the same price as $200,000.
Yeah, that's correct, but I think in order to get something done at this intersection, even if we wanted to hire J1 to come in, they would still require an engineer to design this. You know, in order to get this permitted, they're still going to require us, it doesn't matter which engineer that we use, they're still going to require to have an engineer stamp that says that this is designed, surveyed, ADA things will still have to be looked at up there. And so it's true that there may be some money to be saved. You're right, that is an estimate. And so he's just, without getting too far into it, and I think BG is doing that to kind of protect themselves, because they don't want to give us their actual number if we do decide to take this out to bid. They're probably, that's probably a bit on the high side, but I think that the numbers are correct just in the fact that it's an average of what he's seeing around Kansas at this time. With similar projects. And so everything else that's in that BG consultant's letter still remains true. Those are things that we would have to do in order for KDOT to permit this project to proceed.
So then the question is, are we gonna spend between $50,000 and $60,000 to get the actual project, the actual design?
Can we go with another engineering company and then you don't have to front the 50,000? You either take the project or you don't.
Let me look at something real quick here. I noticed in the letter that I think the 52,000 is the total engineering cost. And so if you go to First Street Corridor, if I go to First Street Corridor, I should say. So the surveying services would be $10,000. The preliminary design services would be $25,000. And so the number for us to get from BG, in order for us to get a number, and I apologize, I just read that. The number that we would need in order to get a solid number of what we would expect at that intersection would be about 35,000. Because we would need those two things done.
It still seems astronomically high. Most of my findings has been 15,000 is what it should be to get a number hammered down on this. When I say 35 to 50, they say that they've never even heard of that. I don't know if we need to find another engineer. There are other engineers that we can call, and maybe they want our business a little bit more than our engineer on contract, but I mean, that's a third of the price of the bid to just repair them. That's why it doesn't make sense.
Wherever you get, I'd suggest giving them this memo because it outlines what KDOT's expectations are. And if any of these other bidders haven't seen that and don't include it, KDOT's they're not gonna approve it. So don't waste your time getting this document and say what's it gonna cost.
And when was that being friendly?
And that was from Mr. Larry to you on where's the date? March 13th.
March 13th, thank you.
So I suppose that's an option to where you can look into, see if there's other engineers that would I mean, I don't know that we'll get anything cheaper, but can't hurt to check. But then we still have the immediate concern where this letter says by Friday, we have to put the lights back flashing with the stop signs put back up. So we need to decide, are we going to be compliant with the letter with that portion of it? Or are we going to roll a dice and see what KDOT decides to do? And I don't think that will probably. Fact of the matter is, those lights are eventually gonna come down, whether they come down for good or they come down because we have to replace them with the new stuff. So. Are we going to turn the lights back to flashing, which we've been told to do?
The other side of the conversation that I had with Leroy King this afternoon is I did ask the question of what the consequences would be if we did not turn those signals back to flashing by Friday. And he did say that although that was not in the letter, that at that point, that they would be forced to come and remove those signals.
I say have them come remove them. Leave them on, and when they come remove them, and then they're assuming any responsibility if anybody gets in an accident there, because they removed them, not us. So, come get them.
I'm sure that they will.
Okay, let's do it. Leave them on. Let's let them come get them.
I mean, Evans, what's your opinion?
I guess.
Tom? I knew the answer, I just wanted to check anyway.
You bet you, man. Put red heart stickers on the board. There you go, baby. You wanted them, here they are.
I mean, I'm gonna say this, I won't be a popular thing to say either, or it'll be misconstrued that I'm just doing whatever KDOT says. I just know KDOT has a lot of money that we would like to have access to as far as safe routes to schools, as far as we're gonna have to figure something out, whether it be the flashing beacons or whatever. I just hope that doesn't hurt us in the end when we need that grant money. I guess we just take that chance.
I think the citizens are trying to have a safe route to school. And KDOT is bucking us every inch of the way. But I respect what you have to say also.
They have a program for pedestrian crossings that we could look, we've already looked into it. Where they study the corridor and they've got a number of solutions for pedestrian crossings. But I guess we need to make a decision on whether we're gonna put the signal back or not. If we put it back, then the crossing would probably incorporate a pedestrian crossing. But there's grant money for that, so we could get help installing the pedestrian crossing equipment and markings. With these programs that they told us about.
So then let me get this straight. We're gonna go ahead and say, take the lights. Then they're done. Then what's after that? Are we asking Brad to go out and check with other engineers to see where we're at as far as getting a design project? Because then we will still try and put lights back. And then we have to be ready. Are we going to be spending money to get the design project done, which 30,000, 50,000, 15, I don't know. And then we'll have to decide if it comes anywhere near 750,000, how we're going to pay for it. So, and that's where, if the citizens really want that has to look at sales tax or property tax. But so is that the steps we're doing? First, we're saying remove the lights. Second, Brad, find cheaper bid.
I would like to still go ahead and, doesn't cost any money to put a permit in, right?
It does not cost anything.
So I would say put a permit in just to replace 2 poles. And make it controlled crossing. And let them deny that. And then we've done everything that we can, and then if we even go to that far, then do the whole signal. With a bid and say it's all gonna be replaced with controlled crossing, and if they deny that, then we're gonna have to go the hard route with all the engineer and all that stuff.
Okay,
Well, it's a moot point though, if we don't switch the lights to flashing.
It doesn't cost a penny,
Right.
and all it does is take 15 minutes.
I'm not arguing about putting the permit in, but if you're saying that the first permit is to see if we can replace 2 poles, correct?
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna come and take everything. If we don't switch lights to flashing.
We don't know if they're gonna take them down next week or next October.
Oh, you want to bet it'll be pretty soon, is my guess. I don't know. I haven't been
It's the
told.
government, they're not gonna do anything quick.
And we did put a permit in.
For one pole.
for the.
And the letter specifically, the letter specifically says that they want it controlled. So that's why I feel that they're saying, hey, you get this controlled and you set a pole. And get that up to date. They might let some squeeze. They haven't helped us out on anything, so I'm gonna say that chances are very slim, but it's checking the box and it's doing every single thing that we could possibly do before we spend $750,000 possibly for the light. If there's a chance that they approve it, then we just saved $600,000.
I agree, but so the question is, are we turning the lights back to flashing, or are you just gonna gamble if they're not gonna come tearing down?
And we're gonna leave them on,
Okay,
and then we're gonna see what happens. And then keep putting in permits for more. Put in a permit for the controller and everything, and do the 2 poles. And then if they decline that, then let's put in one for all 4 and see if they approve it. Yet, we have nothing to lose. They kick it back, then fine, we'll just keep moving.
and it'll also be nice to have a discussion with the J Warren when they come in tomorrow and say. To show them, like Dave said, all the information, say, is this bid you gave us? I mean, because if they're like, oh, we didn't realize all that was going on, no, we wouldn't do that unless. We had everything KDOT said, and then that takes care of that issue too.
Who's meeting with this guy tomorrow?
And they're going to be here for a completely different purpose. They're going to be here to set some poles for us at the lake that are broken. And so while they were here, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to discuss this.
And like I asked, who's meeting with them?
Just
Good. Okay. All right, thank you.
So, do we need a motion about? Or we just go? Yeah. What's going on?
It's 6:30.
Does that mean we're supposed to be done by now?
No, Patrick has to stick.
My apologies.
Okay, any other questions about First Street corridor? All right, let's move on to fireworks dates and band discussion.
so every year the commission sets fireworks dates out of the city lakes. And I have been asked to look into repealing the ordinance that currently prohibits fireworks here in Hiawatha. And so what I have done, and I've attached this information to the commission packet, was I called around to some of the surrounding communities, got an opinion from our police department, an opinion from our fire department, who's here. And just kind of ask some questions on what that would look like. You know, I have some sample ordinances from some of these other towns that kind of the way that they handle this. And so what it looks like to me is that typically speaking, a lot of these towns control is kind of really that July 1st and 4th. There's a lot where a lot of them will allow those to be set off. I believe Borden's, I just heard back from Borden, they'll pull that ordinance from them. They allow theirs to be set off from June 27th through July 4th. And just as I asked, okay, well, what kind of problems do you normally see? And they said, normally it's just noise complaints, things like that. And that's normally the problem that they have. A lot of noise complaints, kind of very similar to what I got from Nikki Gruber as far as what the police department, kind of what they had to, their input was they were afraid that it would just be an increase and, you know, just general things like that, noise complaints, things like that. Fire department, yeah, when I can let Patrick speak for himself, but when I spoke with him, he said that when he lived in Oskaloosa, you know, he didn't have any fire calls because of fireworks. Is that correct? I'm saying that right. And generally speaking, you know, there's more just noise than anything. And so I attached all that information to the packet. I just kind of want to have that conversation. Either way, we won't be able to get an ordinance in place for this year. If we did decide to go that route, that would go into effect 2025. But we would need time to bring back a new ordinance, and then we'd have to publish it, go into effect 30 days after that. And so it'd be 2025 fireworks season that would go into effect. But the discussion will be at that point, is that something that we're interested in pursuing? Is this something that you want to have Andy work on to bring back to the commission? But either way, we need to set the fireworks stage for this year out at the city lake. I look back and typically it's July 1st through 4th. And really it kind of depends, the times were kind of all over the place. And so if the times were July 4th is on a weekend, typically it'd be to midnight. During the week, it might be till 11 p.m. And so the commission really has leeway to decide what they want to do as far as setting dates out of the lake goes this year. But that, and also to for the fireworks show that we have every year, it does on July 3rd. We need to set that date as well. And so that's what I have to you for discussion. I'm open to any questions or any thoughts that anybody may have.
Are we able to lift the ban in town? I mean, if we're gonna approve it for the lake and everything, are we able to just lift it for the whole town this year?
We wouldn't be able to do that now. We'd have to repeal the ordinance.
It's different though than, because we lifted for our fireworks display and is it different than that or what?
The ordinance, the way that it states is that the commission does have leeway. I did attach a copy of our ordinance as well.
Where we can set the times and dates.
Where we can set the times and dates, and we can allow fireworks displays, but that's a commission decision at that time. And so our ordinance does allow for the fireworks display, but not for the discharge of fireworks. I wasn't really, I was kind of surprised about how comprehensive the ordinance is. It is all fireworks. It's not just, I always had thought that we could do like all those snappers and snakes and things like that, but that's actually not true.
Covers everything.
It covers everything. I mean, it even covers cap guns, I believe. It's pretty comprehensive. And then for the area, we're kind of an outlier around this area. I heard back from Seneca, I heard from Falls City, I've reached out to Samantha, I heard from Morton today. And so we're kind of an outlier in the area, although fireworks bans in Kansas aren't really uncommon. It's just, it's up here for discussion.
When I looked into it, I think there was one other town within 150 miles or 200 miles that had a ban.
Yeah, when I looked, I got on to, I believe it was just KMBC9. They have a website that kind of lists the fireworks bans around the area. A lot of the bans that I see are bigger cities around the Kansas City area, city of Lawrence, things like that.
I think it's just more for the kids. I mean, kids being able to set some fireworks off in their driveway. Don't see it being an issue. People that set fireworks off in town and could probably still do it anyway, so there's noise complaints, so. It's more for the kids.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm that wild about that idea. I think we've got a good place to do fireworks out at the lake, and I think the noise factor would bother a lot of people and the dogs and everything else. And I don't know if that's a good idea. That's my opinion.
Well, I kind of agree with Brian, as long as it's not for 3 or 4 days, I can take a day or two. I can take like the 3rd, 4th of July.
Brad, Matt.
What's that?
Matt.
Yeah, he was for the event.
So being on the hospital list fire department down there for 5 years, living in the city limits, that they had a policy or ordinance in place where you could shoot fireworks off 1st to the 5th. That was a long time.
Yes.
Wages.
And they also permitted away fireworks, and everything, which was rather, as Mr. Middendorf, stated about dogs, yes, it does, but after the second night, they got used to it, but what I relayed to Brad was, one night, if it was a weeknight, 11, weekend, midnight, it'd be done with it. 99% of the public, in my opinion, and as your fire chief, are gonna do the right thing for their neighbors and, dog wise and responsibility wise as the fire. There's that 1% is gonna be assured. And that's where myself and law enforcement can come into play and stop it. So that's my,
On the third and the fourth, we also have two celebrations, so
right, we have.
you're gonna have 90% of the people at celebration.
Right.
Yeah.
And to throw in another caveat of it, volunteer firemen, we may not be in town, we may be in town. And you throw just a backlash of it, you throw one fireworks, and then maybe another one pops up on the other side, another one pops up out in the country. So I mean, there's pros and cons to both sides. Thank you.
You're gonna have to look at the weather too. I mean, everything's, part in it too, whether it's dry and or a wet season like we've had this year. But, yeah, even dry weather, in fact, that for it.
Yeah, I think that's, it may be, it seems like this ban was put into place in maybe the early 80s, is that correct? I know, because I remember it was really dry.
It's been there a long time.
I was a little kid when that happened. And, I just remember it going into place, and I just remember how hot and dry the 80s were. And fireworks bans at that time were pretty common in Kansas. A lot of towns were feeling them, but I just kind of remember kind of the background.
Well, we need to decide when we're gonna allow like fireworks in the lake first. Because we can't do anything about it this year. I don't know that it's a hill I'm willing to die on. I don't know that I'm excited about having it, so. But anyway, what would you suggest, Brad, for fireworks this year at the lake?
I would suggest, in looking back at years past, we've typically allowed those on July 1st through 4th at the lake, and really the times kind of vary depending on what the days of the week were. Typically, the 3rd and the 4th are where we do the latest. The 3rd, most people are going to be off on the 4th anyway. I mean, we've gone up to midnight out of the lake before. 11's pretty common on the 3rd and the 4th. Really, the commission has a lot of leeway there. You can set whatever times you like. If it's 10 p.m. on the 1st and the 2nd, I'd say that's reasonable.
I bet there won't be, I mean, just based on the 10 years that I had a fireworks stand out there, when he had 4th in the middle of the week like this, he didn't have many people out there shooting fireworks. The 1st and the 2nd.
Yeah.
So I would make a motion to allow fireworks at the Sea Lake, July 1st through 4th. 1st and 2nd will be until 10 p.m. and then the 3rd and 4th will be until midnight.
That'd be fine.
1st and 2nd. 10 p.m.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the dates for fireworks at the City Lake. Any further discussion? Not done.
All in favor?
Aye. All opposed? Motion passed 5-0. And then, was there something else you said we needed?
Yeah, I'd kind of like to see if there's interest in us repealing that fireworks ban, and that way I can get, Andy can get working on that ordinance so that we can get that moving, so that's in place for next year.
So that's just a consensus type thing.
That's a consensus type thing, yeah, and that way, if I get that direction, we can bring that ordinance back to be voted on at that time.
Evans? What do you think?
I would have to say no.
I would probably say no as well.
Oh, wow.
Oh. Moving on to police HVAC.
Okay, so police HVAC, the HVAC units on top of the police station at least one of them has gone out. And so what I had asked the police department to do is they had gotten a bid for repair of one of the HVAC units on top. And that repair bid was very expensive. It was around 17,000. It was, they were going to have to add Freon to it, or the coolant. I think it's a refrigerant that they add. I don't know if they off the top of my head. But I thought at that time they were going to budget in the CIP to replace those units. I said, we're already most of the way to one of the units. We're going to budget for that. And they had pointed out that in their CIP for this year, they had got they had a grant for the radios, and they had done the flooring the previous years. So that left 40,500 available in that CIP. And so I thought, well, if we were going to do this anyway, let's go ahead and get a price for both of them, see where that comes in. They went out, they went to King Cooling, they went to Maple City, and they went to Pierce Heating and Cooling. And they got some bids for that. Then kind of in the middle of that process, the police department also came to me. The current mini split units that they have in the basement are non-functional. They moved their evidence room down there. And so really what I think the concern is preserving the evidence in the basement. They kind of asked what some of these mini split units cost. And I remember when we went down this road with down at the Public Works building, the relative cost of just a traditional heating and air conditioning system, like say a home style, like kind of what I would have in my house, as opposed to many split units. Actually, at the Public Works building, it was cheaper to do it that way. And so I kind of have the same idea. We had problems with ours, they had problems with theirs. I know that we have a mini split unit at the water plant that's been running fine. It's a Mitsubishi, it's been running great, but I think that they're most comfortable having a traditional HVAC unit in the basement. And so they went out and got some prices on all of these as well. These prices came back, and all the bids are in the agenda packet. But what they are suggesting is that we go with the second bid from King Cooling, which would have been for the two units on top. That would have come out to 24,500. And the basement would come out to 13,200 for a total of 37,700. The bid for Pierce came back in 31,910. The bid from Maple City came in right at 35,920. And the reason that they're recommending the King Cooling is because those are more of a direct replacement for what's actually up there. The units that they have on top of the building right now have a feature on them that allows them to save energy when it's cool outside. It doesn't use quite as much energy. And so the Lennox units that are bid from King Cooling are a direct replacement for those units. And I believe that's really kind of the main idea. They're afraid that we might save a little bit of money now, cost us more money in the long run. That's the way they're making it explained to me. And so given the fact that they have $40,000 in the CIP this year that we could reallocate towards this, I would feel comfortable recommending that we go with King Cooling for 37,700, but I'm open to any discussion or any thoughts.
What year were those last units replaced? It's been a long time ago.
It's been a long time ago. I don't have a year on that off the top of my head, but I can find that information. It's been a while.
Probably won't last as long as they used to. They don't. Mine just went out 13 years, and so
I'll make a motion to approve the bid from King Cooling for the Lennox units for the roof, the 2 Lennox units for the roof and 1 for the basement in the amount of $37,700.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the bid from McCain Cooling for the police department HVAC units. Any further discussion? If not, Jane?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. Up next will be the fire station building design. Yay.
Yeah, so. I think.
No, you
Patrick,
brought
you
it.
do.
Yeah, he started, he was finished.
I try not to put to the podium because I need you very much. But, so the old gas station that the fire department currently uses to have some of their equipment up North Morgan streets. It's a very, very poor condition. It needs to be replaced. Chief Patrick Sheldon and members of the commission, Tony Hall and Dave Middendorf. We met with BG Consultants to kind of get an idea of what needed to be done there, because the idea is we have allocated $175,000 this year in this year's CIP towards the construction of a new building. Patrick wants to go out and try to find out what is this actually going to cost us? And the idea is that we need to have a good idea of what we really want, what the design needs to be, so we can send that to the building manufacturers, have them come in. That way we can get a good comparison. And so we met with members of BG Consultants. We met with our architect, went down there, went over design with the fire department. Patrick was there, the assistant chiefs were there, and had a really nice conversation with them. They kind of got a good idea of what we needed to do. So we sent them with some information, the plans for the fire station, things like that. They looked those over. They brought back a proposal from us from BG Consultants for $5,700 for the design to kind of go with the fire department and help them design that so we can get that out, figure out what that price is going to be. And so that's what I have in front of you today. Right now, I know that and I'll let Patrick talk about this, about some of the challenges that they face with their current situation. I know that there are some. Commissioners had a good chance to see how they have to angle those trucks in, but I'll let Patrick speak about that.
So currently, in the current fire station that houses all really well, there's 5 fire trucks in there. The way we have to park them is you have to angle them in, so you cannot pull them straight out. If you pull them straight out, you're gonna hit them. So we have to angle them that way. We're not banging doors against trucks. Also, with the gas station, if we're one new fireman away from slipping the clutch and going through the back of the building on the south side, and there's already a hole in there, you can see through it. I have not looked up the expense the city has paid for heating for that building for this year, but I'm almost also afraid to do that because I don't know what that is. So that's the deficiencies with the old building. Plus the ceiling is fallen in. There is no ceiling in there. There's holes in the back and the cinder blocks. I believe the building was built like in the 1930s. So, or it was either the 30s or early 50s. Gas tanks have been removed from it. If we were to go forward with this, we was to get a design. We're obviously not going to be able to start any groundwork, even if we have something that comes in close for this year to start that bidding or to start that building this year. So we're actually looking at the 2025. That would allocate the capital funds from this year, and any capital funds allocated for next year to go towards that building, which is going to be really close to funding the entire building. The city's, the street crew would be able to demolish the building and haul it off, which lowers our cost, and kind of start getting somewhat of a grade in there for the new building to be set.
And the water department could definitely help with the water lines and things like that.
Water.
City crews could do quite a bit of work there to kind of help lower that cost.
You have space for your new truck. It should be coming sometime.
I'm glad you asked. I have this. So we'll step.
That's a nice segue.
We'll step away from the building for a moment. We'll step to truck. So the truck that blew up, the engine that needed to be replaced, the replacement engine came in, got put in, got fired up, and it was messed up. So now that engine has been taken out and shipped back, and we're waiting on a new 454 to come in. This truck is still on the road. The new truck, the chassis has been delivered to the manufacturer out Hayes. We are, last I talked to them, I believe we were 5th in line to be built. So they have a full shop full and we're number 5 outside. So our truck is sitting there. It's just waiting for everything to be put on. And that was last week or 2 weeks ago is when I got there. So he's supposed to give me a call and I was gonna run out there when they get about halfway through building it. I was gonna run out there and just take a look at it and see. But yes, that truck, we're supposed to take possession of it this year. It'll probably still not be till fall, which hopefully sooner than later. But yeah, the new building would allow us to kind of put all of our brush trucks, our first response trucks in our main building, and then put those bigger apparatuses over in the new building addition. We're not hanging up against one another. We're not having to take an angle off the street to put those trucks in. It's gonna have wider doors, one door, one fire truck. There's gonna be 2 feet on each side of the fire truck, so it's gonna be accommodating.
PG was here, we looked at that block wall, that east wall.
Right.
It's got a lot of cracks in it. This price doesn't have any money in it for a structural.
It does not. We would have to have a structural engineer come in.
That's not part of this.
That is not.
Then I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's definitely recommended to have that.
And you're wanting to have the new building butted up against the old one,
Ideally, that's what we would like.
put a couple of doors in it. Yeah, pass through, right?
Ideally, yeah. But if we cannot attach it, some breezeway that goes through there or some sort of. That's what this $57 I thought was going to cover was the attachment of the new building to the existing building.
I believe that's
Okay.
that's the case, yes.
Okay.
That was the
Look at
direction,
that.
that was the direction that we gave them.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. 57,000 or 5,700 would be coming out of the fire department's capital improvement plan for this year.
That's correct.
Well, we talked about it being kind of like a breezeway because remember I asked if it was gonna have a give to it because it had to have some kind of give so that it wouldn't come apart.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's
So
where, like Dave was saying, the structural engineer come in and tell us what we can. and can't.
Right.
Engineering works just set real great with Commissioner Shepherd.
Do these engineering designs, I mean, how long they last for years or?
Yeah, once we get the engineering design, so then we can have just general specifications that we can send out to the, and so yes, the answer is yes, they will last for years. Once we have them,
Yeah, it's
we'll
You're just gonna give us a digital copy and a paper copy.
I just haven't forgot that fire department offered to give some of that money.
I know.
for signals. And
Yeah.
so if
We did.
it comes to it, it would be nice that if it comes to that point, maybe we can put that building off and do the signals.
We can't take it.
That's what I thought, we can't.
He said that it could be allocated differently.
I think there was I'm not gonna speak, I'm just gonna stand.
CIP money can usually be allocated differently, yes. But since it's a fire department, we would have to make sure that
If you take money from CIP, it must go back into the fund, you transferred it out.
Could you speak a little louder? I wanna get every word of that.
So how the capital improvement fund works is it's budgeted into your department, say,
Or,
fire department budgeted it. So we will move it into the capital improvement, and that is allocated for fire improvement, so it must go back into the fire department. I do know that there's a way to amend the budget to transfer out of certain funds to other funds, but there is laws on which funds you can transfer in and out. So, I'm not an attorney and I'm not gonna say deposit or CPA. But I think. That's for my. Street department falls under the general. The general. Human transfer. And then out within the budget. Make sense? I don't know what. So the general, there's several departments that fall
It's
under.
definitely something that we have.
Yeah, there's several departments that fall under the general, and.
But when he offered last time, it was a different number.
Well,
It was a different.
It was different money, I think, that they were
Yes.
thinking about.
it was grant money, and when he stated it,
Yeah, this, they have to, okay,
grants have stipulations.
Right.
If you get money, you have to use it for this.
right.
So. It's been clarified a little better, what he said, and I've looked it up again, but, the money he was discussing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, was the
Roads.
they have earned through their fundraising. What'd you say? Wrong. Through their fundraising and the pancake fees, correct? And donations.
The money that we were gonna donate
Yes.
towards the streetlights, no, we was gonna take that out of our general budget, not out of our capital.
Okay.
improvement fund.
Okay, yes, I said.
And that's when you discussed having a budget amendment to our general budget.
Yes.
That's why.
And that was the grants money for, say it was in grant fund or something, that can't be considered.
No,
If there's a situation.
Is there any more talks? You guys going district or not?
no. Well, that's for another time.
That needs to be decided before we build a big building.
No, there is not anything in the works right now for that.
Well, I would entertain a motion to enter in an agreement with BG Consultants and sign the addition to the fire station. Which would replace the old existing gas station at a cost of $57.
Second.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Sure. Moved and seconded, any further discussion? Not, Jane?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. Moving on to water plant lagoon evaporator. Oh, interesting, I was gonna say Brad.
Yeah, that's maybe some talk tonight. Out at the water plant, we have the salt lagoons. Right now, they're like a little bit under 12 foot, which is almost getting to the top. We have one evaporator out there now. If we didn't have that evaporator, it'd definitely go over, which we'd be looking at violations from KDG and then paying cost to have people haul it away. We're looking at, I was gonna budget one for next year, but with the matter of rainfall we've had lately, I think I need one like just now, basically. It takes 8 to 10 weeks to get here and it is $46,790.65. For them to haul it here and to set it up, we already have power out there from the other one. So, and that would help lower the lagoons. The impact of not doing this would be that it could overflow, which the EPA would get into it, KDG would get into it, so. But the evaporators helped a lot, like I said, when they first constructed it, they wanted it to be 5 to 6 feet, it's 12 feet already. And that's both lagoons that we have up there, there are 2 of them, so.
Some of the contingency plans that we have as we get to where we're getting up to where we think that we're gonna get close enough to flow over those lagoons. Is one of the options that was presented that we had originally was that we have the water trucked off. And so what that would consist of is we would have to get a permit from PDG and find a place that will take that. Usually that's going to be like depot injection, not a fracking operation, take water like this. It doesn't have to be high quality water. This is considered to be toxic by EPA standards. And so we really need to prevent that water from going onto the ground to prevent any kind of EPA catastrophe out there. But the best I can figure, without getting into too much geometry, which you would actually need to do with those lagoons, since the sides are sloped, was we would need to haul about 1.5 million gallons of water out of those lagoons just to get down to where we're at a normal operating level. 1.5 million would be about 188 loads of water hauled out of here by a trucking company. And I just fear that those costs would be astronomical. By the time we got through all that process, and we could really be looking at a major cost for the city if we got to that point. We're trying not to get to that point. We're at the major bet that I got, we're about a palm's width away from being at 12 feet. 12 feet is the full mark. There's room above that as far as what we have as for lagoons. Although a palm width is probably only actually about an inch if you really get out to it and get everything on the level. It's really that we don't have as much room as what we think that we do. If you go up there and look, it looks like we have 5 or 6 feet. There's probably more like half that. And so this is something that we need to get on, you know, like Ryan said sooner than later. Just kind of give everybody a background. I was really involved with the first project, so I'm really aware of some of the details. We already have the permit from KDHE to do the work that we needed to do. It included future evaporators, which we knew that were going to be needed. So we don't have to do anything there. The power's already there. It'll be a pretty easy process.
If it's at 12 foot now, how high can it go? How much higher?
We probably have another 2 feet above that.
Ooh.
And that's gonna be about it. And so
This has been a problem for.
Yeah.
this has been a problem. And so when those lagoons were designed, we have not seen the evaporation that we expected. And we don't know whether that's because the data that they used from, it was right around 1990, weather conditions have changed, we get more rain than we used to back in those days. I really don't know what it is. They had to use the data that they had in front of them. But I know when Highland built their water plant, the very same water plant we do, they actually designed one of these evaporators for their lagoon from the beginning. Because that's just them learning from what they've seen in us. You know, that we haven't seen those evaporation rates that we're supposed to be getting.
How many of these can you put in a lagoon?
We can put 3 in the big one. We have enough room to put another one in the small.
I'll make a motion to purchase an additional evaporator for water plant lagoons from RWI at a cost of $46,790.65.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to purchase an additional evaporator. Any further discussion? Not, Jean?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I would also like to add, before Brian sits down. I'd like to add, Brian, that I know that there were myself and 2 other commissioners kind of went to your jobs at 7th in Iowa. What, Friday?
It was
Yeah, it was.
Wednesday. I think it was last
Oh, it
Wednesday.
was Wednesday? Oh my gosh, how time flies. I was there for like 2.5 hours, I think, got a good tan. But you guys are just absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you.
As, you know, our sewer boys, I'm just so proud of the crew that we have. But standing there watching you guys is just, I just learned so much every day watching you guys. And I just want to say thank you, and we're so glad to have you, Sewer and R&P, P&R. You know, that place out there at Fisher Center.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Thank you. Good job.
Motion to pass 5-0. Brad, moving on to communications.
Under communications, we have the OKM conference flyer. This is something that comes up every October. This year, this is going to be down in Wichita again. Normally they rotate this, but the conference center that they were using on this year doesn't exist anymore, and so they're gonna have this workshop again. Next year, it'll be back in Kansas City, but what I would like to, just any commissioners, all commissioners are invited to come to this. It's really good forum for it to meet see what other cities are doing, kind of learn about things that are going on in the state. But we would just like to know, probably fairly soon, whether any commissioners are interested in going. That way we can book the rooms, hopefully get them at the higher, same place where they do the convention, the basic convenient. So just get back with me if anybody's interested in going, and we'll get this rooms.
Okay, that's it?
That's it.
Moving on to executive session. I'd like to make a motion that the city commission recess into executive session in the conference room for a period of, I think 5 minutes is enough. Say 5 minutes, to discuss matters regarding the issue of potential city personnel. Justification for closing the meeting is to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel. The open meeting will resume at 7:13. In the commission chambers and to include the city commission.
Second.
Moving to second, any further discussion? Not me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion passes with you.
Yeah.
Make a motion at 7:14, the city commission called back into open meeting, the commission took no binding action for an executive session.
Second.
Move this second, any further discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion.
Motion passed 5-0. Next, I would like to make a motion to hire Brad Scott as the Hiawatha City Administrator pursuant to the contract. Has been approved.
Second.
Moving to second to hire Brad. Any further discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. Brad Scott. Now quick, give him that contract, give him sign. Okay, moving on to governing body comments. Tony stole my thunder, because I was gonna comment how impressive these guys put in a 500-pound thing. I wanted to come, but I was out of the conference, so I couldn't, but it's impressive, and not even knowing for sure what you're supposed to be doing, so this is like a good thing to do. Anyways, pretty cool. I guess also happy 4th, because we won't be until then. I just hope everybody's safe and enjoys the fireworks, and for the Hiawatha Chamber for helping to pay for those fireworks. So moving on to Brian.
I don't have anything to do. Congratulations, Brett.
Thank you.
Dave?
Welcome, Brad. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Evan?
Congrats, Brad.
Thank you.
And Tom?
Yes, congratulations, Brad. Welcome aboard. Boy, what's your age?
Good things are ahead.
Yes.
So motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Move to second to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion passed 5-0.
It's on the last lunch, Friday.